Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. My name is Russel Hayes. I was 35 years old when everything I thought I knew about love, family, and loyalty collapsed, quietly, quickly, and completely. To everyone who knew us, Linda Mercer and I were the golden couple. I had built a solid career in cybersecurity consulting, and Linda ran her own boutique interior design firm. Stylish, smart, charming, she had that ability to light up a room without even trying. I used to think I was the lucky one. We'd been together 3 years, engaged for 8 months. Our wedding was set for a Saturday in early May. It wasn't just a wedding, it was a statement. 200 guests, a cocktail hour under glass chandeliers. People flew in from both coasts. Linda was obsessed with every detail. Luxury meets legacy, she called it. I didn't argue. I liked seeing her happy. My parents, Kenneth and Diane Hayes, had been married for nearly 40 years. Kenneth was a semi-retired architect, sharp dresser, good talker, the kind of guy who still had a firm handshake and looked people in the eye. I grew up thinking he was invincible. At the rehearsal dinner, he raised his glass to me and said, "You picked well, son." I believed him. Linda adored him. Or so I thought. "Your dad's got that Cary Grant thing going on," she said once. I laughed it off. Our families blended effortlessly. My mom and Linda got along. Linda's cousin Rachel was her maid of honor. My college buddy Cameron, a tech guy turned wedding DJ, was handling music and AV. It was all locked in. That was the story I was living. At least, that's what I believed. Until the night before the wedding. We held the rehearsal dinner at a private room in Canlis. Everyone was dressed like it was already the big day. Linda wore a deep green dress that made her the center of every photo. Kenneth was in a tailored charcoal suit. He kept brushing invisible lint off his jacket like he had something bigger on his mind. I noticed it then. When I was talking to Cameron at the bar, I caught Linda and my dad in a conversation by the windows. Nothing wrong, except the way they stopped talking when they saw me, like a light switch flipped. Linda smiled too quickly. Kenneth raised his drink. Cameron didn't smile. He just stirred the ice in his glass and kept his eyes on them, clearly unconvinced. To him, it didn't look like casual small talk. It looked like two people who'd just been caught doing something they shouldn't. I shrugged it off, telling myself it was probably just wedding stress. People were tense, emotions were high, and everyone was under a microscope. I wasn't going to let one weird moment spin into paranoia. Still, something about the exchange stayed with me longer than I wanted it to. Linda barely touched her food. Kenneth kept checking his watch, even though he wasn't going anywhere. Rachel, Linda's cousin, seemed tense too. She offered to help me gather gifts at the end of the night, then randomly asked, "Do you and your dad talk much?" "Yeah," I said. "He's been helping with vendor calls all month." She nodded slowly, like she was thinking about something she wouldn't say out loud. Back at the hotel, I tried to shake it. Linda was staying at her bridal suite, and I had booked a corner suite to spend the night with Kenneth, just a father-son night before the big day. He showed up with a bottle of Japanese whiskey and a short stack of guest notes to finalize seating. We sat on opposite beds, laptops open, sipping quietly. By midnight, we had settled the final plan. "We good?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Just tired." "You should be. Tomorrow's the best day of your life." I smiled and nodded. He said he was going to grab a drink from the lobby bar after I turned in. I didn't think twice, but I didn't know then that it would also be the worst. The next morning, Kenneth went down to the gym. He left his phone charging on the nightstand. I wasn't looking for anything, but when a notification lit up his screen, my eyes moved on reflex. "Last night was unexpected. I can still feel your hands on me." A message from Linda. The text burned a hole straight through my brain. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake, a joke, some autocorrect horror story. I picked up the phone. The lock screen was open. No passcode. I opened the message thread. It wasn't just one text. It was a chain of them, back and forth, some romantic, some explicit. Some were time-stamped during our engagement party. One message from Linda said, "If he ever finds out, we'll both lose him." I scrolled. Photos, a hotel mirror selfie, a picture in a restaurant, conversations that clearly weren't from a single night. This had been going on for months. I sat down on the edge of the bed and stared at the phone like it had just detonated. Then I did what I do best. I backed everything up, screenshots, chat exports, metadata. I sent it all to a private, encrypted drive I use for clients. Then I wiped all traces from Kenneth's phone. He'd never know I saw a thing. He walked back in 40 minutes later, towel around his neck, like nothing had happened. I was already dressed. "Hit the treadmill?" I asked calmly. "Yeah, just a quick run. Helps me clear my head." I nodded. "Good. You'll need a clear head for today." He smiled. "You nervous?" "Not really. Everything's in place." He clapped me on the back. "That's my son." I looked him in the eye and said, "I'm just glad I have people I can count on." He didn't blink, didn't twitch. That's when I knew. They weren't just guilty. They thought they'd gotten away with it. After Kenneth left the room, I sat there in silence. No pacing, no fists through walls, just silence. I wasn't going to call off the wedding. I was going to rewrite the ending. By noon, I had every message, photo, and date organized into folders. The timeline was airtight, and it was all disgusting. Then I called Cameron. He was handling the reception setup, lights, sound, projector, and I knew I could count on him. I told him I had a video I needed to play during the reception, framed it as a tribute. "Personal," I said. There was a pause on his end. Then I gave him the real reason. It wasn't the kind of tribute people applauded at the end. It was the kind that emptied a room. Cameron didn't press for details. He just told me to send the file. And I did. By 2 p.m., I had turned it into a tight 3-minute slideshow, photos, chat transcripts, and a closing message that read, "Before you toast to love, make sure it's real." Then I made something else, a QR code. I printed it onto 200 small cards with the wedding monogram and a line that read, "Scan for a special surprise from the bride and groom." By 4:15 p.m., everything was ready. Cameron had the video, the cards were packed, and I had one final job left. I called Linda. She picked up after 3 rings. "Hey, babe," she said, like nothing was wrong. "You get enough rest?" I asked. "Barely. Too excited. Can't believe we're here." I smiled to myself. "Yeah," I said. "It's going to be unforgettable." Linda arrived at the venue early with her bridal team. Makeup, hair, champagne, the whole production. I saw her from across the courtyard as she posed for photos. She looked radiant and fake. I watched her laugh and hug my mother like nothing in the world was off. I handed the QR code cards to the ushers with simple instructions. Put one on each seat with the program. The line on the front read, "A little surprise from Russell and Linda." Scan at the reception. People love that stuff. Exclusive content, behind-the-scenes love stories, sentimental videos. No one questioned it. Cameron gave me a subtle nod. He had the real video cued. The fake slideshow, the one guests expected, was just 30 seconds of music and photos of us at Pike Place, our engagement in Paris, holding hands in front of a fireplace. At the 30-second mark, it would switch to the truth. Linda walked up to me before the ceremony. "You okay?" she asked, resting a hand on my chest. "I'm perfect," I said. As the guests filled in, I greeted them calmly. When the officiant asked if we were ready, I said, "Let's do it." We walked to the altar, side by side, hands warm. Her father handed her off with a proud smile. My mother sat front row, teary-eyed, completely unaware. And there, in the 3rd row, sat Kenneth, my father, smiling like a man with nothing to hide. He gave me a thumbs up. I gave it right back. He didn't know this would be the last time we ever exchanged that gesture. The ceremony moved forward like clockwork. Linda looked at me like I was the only man alive. She said her lines perfectly, voice steady, full of emotion. When it was my turn, I took her hands and looked into her eyes. And then I let go. I turned to the officiant. "Actually," I said, calm and clear, "before we finish, I have something I need to share with everyone." The air changed instantly. Murmurs, confused glances. Linda tilted her head like she hadn't heard me right. "I know this isn't traditional," I said, stepping back, "but honesty is important to me. So, if we're going to talk about love, let's make sure we're starting from the same definition." I nodded to Cameron. The string quartet stopped playing. The screen flickered, then opened with a photo of Linda and me at our engagement dinner. Music played softly. Linda relaxed a little. I saw her smile at the guests like it was a cute surprise. Then it changed. The screen faded to black. Then, a screenshot of a message from Linda Mercer to Kenneth Hayes. "I can still taste you. We have to be more careful." People gasped. More screenshots followed. Locations, flirty emojis, a hotel mirror selfie, blurry but obvious. Linda stood frozen. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Kenneth was already standing, red-faced, trying to push past the people in his row. "Turn it off!" he shouted. Cameron ignored him. The audio played next. Linda's voice, from a voicemail. "I know it's wrong, but when I'm with you, I forget everything else, even Russell." The guests were no longer quiet. Some stood, some whispered. My mother turned pale. Linda turned to me. "Russell, please, let me explain." "You'll have plenty of time for that," I said, stepping away. Kenneth lunged forward. "Son, listen to me." I stopped him with a look. "No, you don't get to call me that anymore." Then I walked down the aisle, past shocked faces and shattered illusions. The ceremony was over, and so was every lie. By nightfall, it was everywhere. Guests shared it with friends. Friends shared it on socials. Soon, phrases like vow breakers and the Hayes wedding scandal were all over people's feeds. I never posted it myself. I didn't have to. The internet did it for me. Kenneth fared worse. An expose ran in the Seattle Times, not about the affair, but about ethics violations. Turns out one of the hotels where he and Linda met was owned by a development partner he hadn't disclosed on a zoning proposal. It wasn't illegal, but it looked bad. The board of the firm where he still consulted voted him out unanimously. Diane, my mother, moved in with her sister that same weekend. She didn't return any of Kenneth's calls. 2 weeks later, she filed for divorce. She left me a voicemail that night. Her voice cracked, but she sounded steady. "You were always the one who told the truth, Russell. You handled this with more strength than I ever could have. I'm proud of you, son." I didn't save many messages, but I kept that one. Linda texted me 9 times, called me twice. I never answered. The final message just said, "Please, let me explain." There was nothing left to explain. I moved out of Seattle within the month, transferred to a remote role with one of our cybersecurity partners. Clean slate, smaller place, quieter life. I didn't need noise anymore. I needed clarity. People asked me how I stayed calm, how I didn't lose it. The truth? I did lose something, just not my mind. I lost the illusion that loyalty comes free. I'd spent years thinking trust was a given, something passed down from father to son, something sealed with a kiss at an altar. Now I knew better. Trust is earned, and once you break it, you don't get it back. 6 months later, I was sitting on a rooftop drinking black coffee at sunrise when Linda's name popped up on my screen for the last time. Just a text. "I still love you. I made the worst mistake of my life. If you ever want to talk, I'll be here." I stared at it for maybe 3 seconds. Then I deleted it. No reply, no anger, just peace. By then, I had rebuilt the routines that mattered. Early mornings, work I cared about, quiet walks home. I kept my circle small, no performative healing, just structure, space, and discipline. People in my new job only knew me as Russell, the cybersecurity guy who never missed a deadline and didn't talk much about his personal life. I liked it that way. I wasn't broken. I wasn't bitter. I was just clearer. I started dating again. Not recklessly, not dramatically, just slowly, with boundaries, with honesty. I wasn't looking for a replacement. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I just wanted something real. And this time, I knew exactly what signs to look for. Sometimes I still get asked about that wedding. People who saw the video, people who heard the story secondhand. They always ask, "What made you do it that way?" And I always say the same thing. I didn't ruin the wedding. They did. I just gave the truth a microphone. That vow renewal never happened, but something better did. I made a vow to myself that no matter what happens next, no matter who stands across from me, smiling, swearing forever, I'll never mistake charm for character again. And I'll never confuse silence with peace. Some people collapse under betrayal. Me? I walked out of it stronger than I walked in. And that was the real ceremony. Thank you for watching.